This is Dave Monk, your Prairie Monk, WAFT Champaign 90.1 on your FM dial, and today we're going to be talking about the Camera Club show in Lincoln Square, which is a very good one, and has been a good one for many years. And we have Alan Woolman with us to talk about that. I want to say a few things about salvage. I took a little salvage trip on Friday afternoon. Dropped off a chair. I found two very good rollaway chairs in the garbage dump. It fills up the garbage container, and it's kind of a waste. So I took the chair to Habitat, and I took there's a camera. There's a group of comic books that are just up the street, and they have boxes which make it easy for the sale that goes with Books for Prisoners, and take them to Books for Prisoners. And then Styrofoam is very much a part of many shops in downtown Champaign, and we tend to take those to dailies, which used to be Solo Cup, and they compact them and make them into little briquettes, which then can be sold by people. I'm going to do some switching now because David has arrived. And
your mic is up. Go right ahead.
okay, we're switching deck now, and so just continuing the salvage thing is that there's a lot of small things that people can do that contribute to an overall preservation of materials. If you send plastic to the landfill, then it's going to leach. So various plastics leach in different ways, but it's not good to have plastic in the landfill. The styrofoam, birds just love to eat styrofoam. It's not very good for them. And but somehow that has to be built into businesses so that they do the salvaging, and we have to have a community commercial type recycling. So this is Dave Monk, your Prairie Monk, WAFT Champaign, 90.1 on your FM dial, and
Dave on the board. Quick weather report. If you haven't looked out there, we didn't get the inch of snow that they were saying, but the roads are nothing but ice. Dave here, I was planning to bicycle here. Ha. That's why I'm late. I was not stupid enough to actually get out on a bicycle, let alone anything. So yes, if you don't need to go out, don't. That's view and opinion.
Well, let's look at the Camera Club now. Alan is right next to me.
Hi, Dave.
We're going to talk across. He's been in this area for a long time, come from the Chicago area, and you've been part of the water survey.
Yes.
And you deal with aquifers, which we talk about all the time.
Right. I graduated from Iowa State and then moved here in 1977 and worked for the groundwater section my whole career. And worked there for 34 years. Retired about 6 years ago from them, and worked a lot on a lot of groundwater issues around the state, and especially the Muhammad Aquifer here locally.
Yes, and so you have a stratigraphy background? Do you?
Well,
deal with-
I'm a civil engineer by background, but if you're working in groundwater, you have to become familiar with geology too. But I wouldn't by any means call myself a stratigrapher.
Oh, okay. The stratigrapher is a person that looks at the glaciation and the various stages of glaciation. And when I was talking to you, I was imagining you taking a camera and on a string and
Running it down the hole.
running it down the hole to see what the stratigraphy was.
Yeah, well, a lot of camera work, downhole camera work is done, but usually it's to look at the condition of the well and sometimes the aquifer too, but mostly it's looking at the well itself.
But photography is your avocation.
Yes.
And you're president of the Camera Club and have been for a while.
I am president of the Champaign County Camera Club, have been for a couple of years now. And there are, there's a number of camera clubs around East Central Illinois. Most towns have, there's one in Springfield, one in Decatur, one in Bloomington as well. But
and you have intertribal competitions.
We have competitions against the other clubs, yeah. Principally, we have one with Bloomington every year. The Bloomington Club calls themselves the Coda Roamers, and we have a challenge. We call it the I-74 Challenge, and every year we pick a theme, and then we compare photos.
Then you do work amongst yourselves. You have to compete.
Yes. In fact, just last Monday night we had a print competition of our own. We bring judges in from the community, some well-known photographers.
Yes,
for example,
I've been there. You have little press buttons, and you have.
Yes, right. In fact,
judge.
for example, last Monday we had Daryl Homan, formerly with the News Gazette, was one of our judges. Craig McMonagle, who's been a longtime instructor out at Parkland in photography, was one of our other judges. And Brian Johnson from the U of I Journalism Department also. So, I mean, you get a lot of really good input from these guys about what makes your photo could make it better, why they chose the winning ones, that kind of thing. So my whole motivation, actually, when I joined the Camera Club, was I had entered several photos in this Best of Show competition. And I'd never won anything. And it was like, I wanted to get better. And that kind of led me to the Camera Club to want to improve my skills.
It depends a little on the judges, too, and what they
think. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's subjective.
Yes.
If you had 3 different judges, they might pick something else. But that's kind of part of the deal with any juried competition in any kind of medium, be it photography or painting or whatever.
Yes. So this is an annual competition.
Annual competition.
It's cooperative with the Banner Park District.
Yes. We couldn't do it without them.
It's rather wonderful. You sent me some photographs of the setup. And the setup has nice vertical standards to which you attach the photographs.
Yes.
They almost could be used outside too, because they're a mesh rather than a flat board, so they take wind a little differently than if you had a solid board.
That's true, but I think once you put a bunch of photographs on there, they're going to act like a sail if you put it outside. But that's something to mention. This is our 17th year for this competition. Now, the deadline for submitting photographs was at the end of January. And then just last Friday, we put all of the photographs up in Lincoln Square Mall.
I saw you
And they'll be there all week. So if people want to come out, they should come out and look at them. There's 474 photographs mounted on, like you said, on these grid panels. And then we don't have enough grid panels to show off all the photos, so we do have to use tables. Now, one of the things that I'm hoping we can do this year is have some money left over to buy some more grid panels.
I would enjoy that. I think the people that are on tables don't get
That's right.
as good a view, because there's a lot of light upstairs.
Yes.
And it shines on it, and
glares.
It glares.
It's an annual complaint, and we're trying to do better. It's like we just don't have the resources to buy more of those.
But you have enough that you don't have to have them way down, so you would have to kneel to find them.
So there's a couple down low. But
so you have that 4-foot band that
Right.
is visual for
Right.
most people.
Right.
And there are a lot of people coming in, but some are surprised. He says, I was there. There was an Audrey Mall at the same time, and some were saying, "We didn't know this was on." and Melissa Murley has been very good at announcing this and getting into the News
Right.
Gazette, and this you've missed out some. So
Well, the News Gazette has been putting an ad in the paper every day this past week, so I hope it's generating some interest. And I thank you for asking me to come on here because we want people to come out and see it. Part of the motivation for the show is obviously to generate interest in our club, and for years, the club was not allowed to enter the contest, and I understand that. What we did, though, 2 years ago when I took over as chair, was we created a new category that's specifically for the club members only. And that way, we can show off our work, and we're not competing against the rest of the public. It's just us.
Yes.
And we don't get any prizes. You know, the rest of the public, first place in any category is going to get $100. Second place, 75, third place, 50. So it's not a bad competition at all.
A lot of publicity.
Yeah, and you know what we're trying to do is get people interested, and obviously one of the reasons people weren't joining the club was because, well, then I can't enter the contest. So we hope that changes a little bit, and hopefully people aren't just there entering to win. That they're trying to do more than just get
yes.
the prize.
And some of the clients are very young, and some of
Yes.
them are older.
Yes.
Some of them haven't put a picture in for years and years and years, and then just decided to put it in. So,
That's right. In fact, the youth category, there's no entry fee. And this year that was the biggest category. I think we had like 77 entries in the youth category alone. So,
Well,
and they do a really good job. In fact, some of them probably can do better than I can when it comes to they put some thought into taking the picture.
yes, I was looking at some of their work, and these people are wandering around with cell phones,
Yeah.
and it's a visual era, and rather wonderful.
In fact,
If I could jump in just for one
Sure.
second, we've got a kind of odd technical thing happening here, and I need about 5 seconds to fix it.
okay.
And we're back. Thank you.
Okay. I was going to say, one of the things that struck me, and in fact, frankly, I think one of the best photos in the show was taken by the winner of the youth category. It shows ballet dancer's feet,
Yes,
and one of her feet is standing on a set of books,
yes.
and it's black and white, but the books, I think, and I don't remember the subjects of the books, but I think they were specifically chosen to tell a story.
Yes, telling a story is very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that is part of photography, is trying to tell a story. That brings the viewer into the photo. And you kind of have to have that in mind when you're taking the picture sometimes. That's, it's more, what we're trying to get, at least people in the club, what I'm trying to push is, we're trying to do more than just a snapshot. We're trying to take a picture that tells something.
Yes.
That pulls you in.
I was looking for a picture with carrots. And somebody had to put that together and think about putting some carrots upside down and some carrots. And I didn't find it again, but I saw a bunch of pencils that were organized.
Yes.
And they, that is a little bit more commercial because you see it done commercially. Mm-hmm. But it was, somebody had to think about putting those pencils together.
Right.
Yes, I'm thinking of one architectural one where there was a distance, and so you had a person on one side, a picture of a head of a person, and then tall buildings, and the juxtaposition is
Sure,
is
sure.
interesting.
Yeah. I was thinking of another photo in the show of a girl, and she's obviously, I think she's laying on the carpet, but everybody wanted to. It's taken looking straight down at her, and everybody wanted to have her with her head looking at the top.
Yes.
But the photographer wanted it upside down.
Yes, yes.
and it makes you look at something much differently than if it was right side up.
Well, one of the pictures on your table was of a long bridge, like across Lake Pontchartrain, and you look at it from the wrong angle. If you're on the other side of the table, it's upside down.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different image than if you walk around the other side and see it the right way up.
Sure.
So you can put your own self into these pictures.
Yes. I thought we might see more eclipse photos this year because of the solar eclipse.
You had some.
We had a few. But the photos are good when you have that aurora just where at the moment of totality, but those are tough to really say too much. I mean, there's this grandeur about them.
It's scientific more than it is telling a story.
But interestingly enough, one of the winning photos was of a young boy with a paper plate over his head and the goggles looking up at the eclipse. And that one actually caught the judge's attention. And it was like, it wasn't the eclipse itself, it was people looking at the eclipse that made the photo.
I was looking at some farmland photographs that got 1 and 2 positions, but there's history there. There's an old building, there's a road, there's clouds in the background, and there's trees. And so if you look at the farmstead itself, it says something.
Right.
But if you move across, you'll see pine trees, and they're there by themselves, and you have to suspect that this was a farmstead.
Sure.
And that was the farm buildings.
Sure.
And the pine trees were planted.
Yeah.
And
how long ago?
Yes.
And what's the story? What was that farm like? There's a lot of those photos. There's several photos of old abandoned, the interiors of old abandoned places.
Oh yes, you had one of that one with a whole bunch of chairs in it. This was an infirmary, I think.
I think so. Yes.
Very tall ceiling
and
patterned ceiling, tin ceiling.
Right, and the peeling paint, and these chairs, though, they're all lined up in rows like there was a classroom or something ready to happen. And what is the story? What could have gone on there?
Is this a retired infirmary?
Yes, it's no longer. And I'm sure it's not connected anymore. But
so you have people.
Yes.
And
yeah.
People?
So we had 9 categories, and aside from the club category, that would leave 8. So there's animals, architecture, black and white. There's just kind of a general category, which means anything goes. Nature, landscape.
Yes.
One of the things we did this year too, last year and for several years, we've had a category called manipulated, which basically meant you could Photoshop the devil out of the photo. And we weren't getting many entries in that category. I think last year we only had like 11 or a dozen photos in that category. So we decided to do away with it. And if you wanted to enter a manipulated photo, put it in the general category. And then we added a landscape category, which a lot of people were putting into either the general or nature categories before. And I think that allowed us to expand a little bit on those.
You can sometimes tell that it's manipulated once the sky is brought up.
And it's intentional. People can do some wonderful things beyond my skill levels.
I was looking for Prairie because the Prairie is so devoid of being represented. and then there's a woman named Isha who used to come to the...
Audrey.
Audrey. She used to come to the Rattlesnake Master Run for the Prairie.
Oh.
And so I know her. And then she did have Canadian Wild Rye, and I could do the. Otherwise, you had photographs of butterflies, but sometimes the butterflies were in the garden.
Yes.
And sometime I had to wonder whether there were two butterflies on the same flower. I wondered whether they were manipulated there or not. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But
that one caught my eye too. Yeah.
Yes. So.
I guess another aspect too is I enjoy the landscape of this part of Illinois, and especially I kind of revel in the sky. I mean, you can't not have
that
sky
dead landscape too.
Yeah.
One person walking across the corn and soybean stubble, and a tower in the background to bring the power to it.
Yeah. I always claim you have to have some clouds in the sky.
That was an 8-year-old, I think, that was doing that one.
Yeah. But we also have a lot of pictures from all around the country and all around the world. And one of the complaints last year and previous years was, where was the picture taken? We don't. And so one of the things we asked the photographers to do is add the location of the photo, so you could kind of get a feel for where was that? Was that in Illinois or was that
Yes.
Europe?
So if you see the tide receding, and you see all these interesting remnants of the
tidal
waves.
falls,
So we don't have that in East Central Illinois.
No. But was it California or was it Carolina?
Yes.
That kind of thing. So,
before we get too far, I have some general questions. You have a whole population of people who are doing pictures.
Yes.
And it's interesting to see that they're still there with a single picture or several pictures. And I wonder about WEFT, because WEFT is a radio station and WILL is a radio station. But WILL has a video side to it and a photographic side to it. I think you've told me outside that you're not into video.
As a camera club, we haven't really gotten into the videography side of things, although most cameras now, and including your cell phones, can do video. It's just not something we've ascribed to. So, I mean, there's a niche there. If somebody wants to start, maybe there is a video club in town. I really don't even know.
Well, I'm even thinking whether the radio station, which is WEF, where we're speaking from, could have some video.
Sure.
So we do that. So we photograph our radio program and put it up on television after we've added pictures, and you've provided pictures. I have a good picture of the whole retinue of the photographs. It shows you how you put it up and how you use these devices that take the pictures off the tables and put them vertically. And that's rather nice. So then I think of how we work with people. Sometimes they're professional people. I didn't see any medical photographers, and they're tremendously important. They are controlled to some extent. They have to get that pimple has to be the right color and it has to be in the right place. And how do you print that? So where are the professionals? And some of those professionals are also the computer people who are going to change it a little bit if it's for teaching purposes to emphasize something. So there's a different story there.
Sure. And that's obviously separate from our contest, which is geared towards amateurs. And so if you're taking photographs as part of your livelihood, this is probably not the medium.
Yes, I'm thinking also of advertising.
Sure.
Advertising is a different game. And
yes. Oh, yeah.
It has to be done very quickly. So sometimes you have to, like this program, I'm thinking whether we could blog this in abandoned public television and have a different sort of program.
Sure. Yeah.
That would show the photographs.
Yeah, that'd be a great addition to the community. I mean, you have Urbana TV, so it's just a matter of getting your.
So it worried me a little bit as if I take a photograph, what are my legal background for taking photographs of other people's photographs?
I don't. Well, I as long as you're not trying to sell it, I think you're okay. That's. I mean, we're just. I mean, I do that, and I'm just more or less for documentation purposes. I'm not trying to.
Yes, I think that's the role of the game with non-profit
Yeah.
radio stations.
Yeah, that has become a real problem now with posting of photographs online, and then have somebody take that photo and use it and sell it as their own.
Yeah.
That's become a real issue around the world.
I saw one very small nude, and in this area discussion of gender and all the rest of it, I thought that was very bold and brave to do that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It's posted. I thought it was fairly innocuous.
Yes, I did
so
too.
It's an innocent photo. Somebody could.
They
raised
a few years ago, you would have more of those. You didn't see a lot of gals looking like gals.
Yeah.
I
I will recall that last year we had an entry that contained a nude. It was a nature scene, and we decided not to display that. We told the photographer that we couldn't
do that.
Because it was
as an amateur group, you have to handle these sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
So I do want to mention though that the show is up all week this week, this coming week, and then next Sunday.
At what time? Because you can
at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
We have the judges come and talk about some of the photos. There will be club members there also to if people want to talk about their photo, we'd be happy to visit with them. So 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and it's going to be in the old Art Mart space at Lincoln Square.
Okay,
so it's
around the corner.
Around the corner and down at the south end of the mall.
So the critique will be away from the photograph.
It will be. Now, what we've done is taken pictures of the pictures so that we can show them up on a screen for an audience. Because trying to hold up an 11 by 14 photo to 100 people,
it doesn't
they
work.
can't see it.
Yes.
It doesn't work. So we started doing this a couple years ago so that we can put it up on the screen. In fact, what it gives us the opportunity, too, is the judges have taken a couple of those photos and then done some of their own manipulation to say, okay, here's what you could do with this photo to make it better. And then we can show that on the screen as well. So it's a real plus, I think, for the audience to see, now I see what they're talking about.
Yes, I go to meetings where there's a computer presentation, but it's very hard to have a board up front and an audience behind. They all have to look sideways at something. And so the technology is such that you can have pictures looking in different directions. The cities do it. They have the city board will see their picture from their direction, and the audience will see it from their direction. And it's very, very helpful to have a roving mic. So if you were expecting the audience to speak or ask questions, they can do it and people can hear.
Sure. Right.
So the technology is getting so that we can do that, and you can take your small group to the national level if you have the computerization to do it. It's a changing world.
Yeah. I was going to say that's one of the things that we do as a club, too, is members will bring in a photograph and ask the club, how would they manipulate the photo to make it better? And so we'll just sit down there and we can do it while we watch the photo. We can, use Photoshop or Lightroom or some kind of post-processing software to manipulate the photo, and people from the audience and the club members will say, okay, well, what if we cropped it this way? What if we, darken this or lighten this. And we can do that in live, live time right there. And then we can show, okay, here's the before when you gave it to us, and here's the after. What do you think? And people walk away going, oh, I didn't think of that.
And some of them have their own ideas that they put
Oh,
in
sure,
there.
yes.
So,
But that's the thing I want to emphasize is the club is for photography, people interested in photography, but they don't have to be experts. We have people of all abilities. Our goal is to make you better. Don't be intimidated. Come, the dues are only $20 a year, and in fact, if you join now, it's only $10.
That works sometimes. You don't have to have a lot of money to do
No.
these things, but you have to have some.
No, and frankly, you don't have to join the club to come to the meetings. You can just come and sit and listen. The only reason we have the entry fee is so that if you want to enter any of the competitions, then you're eligible. But if you just want to come and learn, you don't have to pay any dues.
Do you teach? Do any of you go out and go to a group of young
we have not,
people?
but we kind of, within our meetings, we do tailor some of the meetings to actually teaching some of the fundamentals.
Your children
Yeah.
and see.
Well, we haven't done that, but the members, surely the members could bring their children in too. There's no reason why not they couldn't.
I was looking at an emerging cicada, and the cicada had come out of its case and was sitting on top of its case,
Right.
and its sort of lace wings
Yes.
had not been blown up to be
Yes.
wings, and so
Right.
that cicada couldn't move.
Right. That's an alert photographer for one to be able to capture that moment.
And so I met her because she and her husband were looking at the
Oh,
and they knew me from Prairie experiences, and she hadn't put in a photograph. These are retired people, and so that was nice that she could do that. And
Sure.
I said, "Are you a biologist?" And she said, "No, I'm just interested in nature."
Yeah.
So to take that picture and take the compound eyes end of
Yes.
it, and to take the wings end of it,
Yeah.
there's a whole discussion in there.
Yeah. Well, and that gets into this whole subject of macro photography, taking close-ups. And there's special lenses to do that, but you don't necessarily need a special lens if you're willing to get close with your camera. Some things you don't want to get too close to, but or you can use a zoom lens and focus very closely
Yes,
on
there's
the
some
little
very
thing.
good pictures of sheep there. Wiseman, Bob Wiseman has
Yes,
a picture
Bob.
of
Yes,
a
Bob's a
sheep.
longtime member of the club, and he lives down in Charleston. And drives up here for the meetings. And he used to teach photography down at Easter. So
Well,
he's
he has to have a lens that put the ears of the sheep fairly in perspective, so that you don't get the nose and the
Sure.
ears are way back
Sure.
there. So he has to know his photography
Sure.
to do that.
Yeah, that's all
so you
part
can
of it.
see some of the technology behind this.
Yeah.
It's rather wonderful.
Yes. And cameras these days are from your cell phone to the digital single lens reflex. They are amazing pieces of machinery, computers in your hand, and they can do some wonderful things. What we try to teach people in the club is to get off that automatic point and shoot tech.
Yes,
And-
the
and-
cell phones can be very good.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're in place with the camera,
Yeah.
and it's not a single lens reflex that's
Right.
going to go bing, boom, boom.
Right.
It's
But nowadays you can control the cell phones too. I'm not really an expert at that, but you can do a lot of things that a single lens reflex. I mean, you can't change the lens, but you can manipulate how you take the picture too. So,
yes.
but talking to some of the members that have been around a while, when this is the 17th year of this competition. Back when it started, there weren't digital cameras. Well,
Right.
17 years ago, it was just on the cusp, And so a lot of the photos that were submitted were film, taken with film and then
So
developed.
do these people have dark rooms anymore?
Not too many. Not too many. Most of the people I know that had dark rooms have given them up.
And what do they do with all these chemicals?
Well,
I wonder.
you can sell them to somebody that wants them, that is still developing them. In fact, one of our judges this year, Lyosha Sivanarski, basically runs the photo museum in Urbana. He still does
Darkroom.
Darkroom work.
You can dodge in Western
Yes,
style.
yes.
You can spend a lot of time dealing with
Yes, and so he brought that to the judging this year. It was very interesting.
So Johnson is more a journalist style of person. I think he teaches in the journalism school.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he would come to it with
From a different
sometime
point of view.
having to catch something quickly when the time is right, or organizing it.
Yeah.
in
Or I think all of the judges are very good at what should be in the picture and what shouldn't be, and try and get rid of the extraneous. That's one of the things that I've kind of learned too, is you take the photo, but then you can manipulate it, crop it maybe, cut out some of the stuff that doesn't need to be there that gets in the way of the photograph. I've learned a lot in the few years that I've belonged to the club, and I think, there's people in the club that are just tremendous photographers that I kind of try and soak their knowledge off. And that's what we're trying to pass on to the people that are.
And a lot of these
joining.
people have avocations as
Oh,
a
yeah.
photographer,
Well.
that they have either their
Yes.
real life is interesting in itself.
Sure.
It might be that they go to Guatemala and
Oh, yeah.
and get that sort of atmosphere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They bring their specialty to the photographs. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that most of your exhibitors are expressing themselves on a naked image,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes framing
Oh,
is
sure.
a very helpful thing. It gives the photographs some quality. Can you say something about framing your photographs?
Well, are you talking about framing within the photo or actually matting the
Matting
photo?
it around
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Well, I guess there's two schools of thought. It just really depends on what you're trying to do. Now we have, within this competition in particular, we have a requirement that the photo must be 11 by 14. Well, you could submit a smaller photo than that if you wanted to mat it, but it has to be on 11 by 14
Format.
foam core, okay? So if you're willing to live with a smaller image and then have something around it that you can, no problem. I would encourage, though, that you stick with a neutral color on any mat. So maybe white or black or maybe cream, but nothing
Yes, so
colored.
if you go to the Art Institute and you get a photographic display, it's usually like that.
Yes, right.
Not
You don't want it
outrageous
to
colour.
compete with the photo itself. The other thing is the judges are looking at these, and almost always, the larger the image, the better it is to see, and it's just more impressive that way.
Also, when you're loading these things, it's very difficult to handle different sizes of pictures.
Yeah.
It's very convenient to have an 8 by 11 or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. We've just settled on that 11 by 14 format, which can be frustrating for some, but that's just the way it is.
So in behind this is the Urbana Park District, and Janet Salisbury's not here because it's glacé from here to St. Joe. She lives in St. Joe.
Yeah.
But she has been a powerhouse in putting some of this sort of stuff together over the years.
I think I do need to say something about, first of all, the Park District has been the Urbana Park District has been a tremendous partner in this, and Janet in particular has been more than just my right-hand man in this. She gets all the photos in, she prints up the labels, she's the kind of the contact with the public, really, and when people are bringing everything in. We could not do it without the cooperation of the Park District. But I also think I need to at least mention some of the other sponsors, in particular the News Gazette, who advertises all the work. And then next Sunday, we'll there'll be a feature story with all the winners will be in the paper, their photos.
You have a list of
Yes,
some
and
of the
so
promoters that have helped us.
so we've had longtime support from Larry Canfor, Trophy Time, Framers Market, International Galleries, Art Coop, Busey Bank, and Illini Studio, and we picked up a new sponsor this year, Prairie Gardens. They all have some foot in the door with photography, some more than others, obviously. Larry provides a 16 by 20 print to the winner. So we have to make a decision about who gets that. That's probably the biggest challenge for us.
So that's an overall picture for the.
Well, we don't pick the winner of the winners. We used to have a winner of the whole thing.
It's
now
very hard to do that.
Yeah. But this year, and I think it's probably safe to say it today, we had one person win first place in 2 categories. Freya Replinger is going to get that Larry Canfor Award this year because she did some tremendous work with. Let's see. I'm trying to think. It was a landscape. It was the Ferris wheel, if you remember the Ferris wheel.
Yes.
And then also, I'm trying to think if it was an animals or a landscape. It was the heron or the egret taking off.
Yes.
And it was very. Both the judges and I would agree. It was a kind of a Japanese almost feel to it, and that so much of Japanese art influenced our art here back in the day. That's a lot, and European art too, for that matter. They brought that into their paintings back, 200 years ago.
Yes.
And that had so. Congratulations to Freya. I happen to know Freya, and I wasn't a judge, but she works out at Allerton Park.
Yes.
And I think it's like I would have a hard time working out there when I have that around me all the time.
And I think her father was an architect, and her mother is a weaver.
Oh, okay. Well, she's got it in the family.
She has probably some background there. Say something about Lincoln Square. I was there. You were loading photographs, and then yesterday I was there. There was a whole bunch of Asian people doing dance in there.
I was not aware.
It's a very small mall. It closed off Green Street and Broadway, and there's a Humer's Hotel there. It hasn't always fitted. The big malls went north and left Urbana a little on the outside, but that mall has a feeling to it. It has a co-op. I'm trying to get the exercise people to have dynamos on their exercise so that they can keep the lights going without.
There you go.
We have, the roof is full of air conditioners that take out the heat. We should be using some of that energy, but. There's 2 or 3 churches in there. Right. It's a very alternate form of mall, but it does these interesting things. So I think some credit to the mall that they're
absolutely. Again, it's another cooperator that we would struggle to do. I mean, they allow us to put the show in there free of charge, and then they also help us, with space for the critique at the end of the week.
And just across the road is the Urbana City people who run the farmers market and the indoor market that was there on Saturday.
Right, they were there. That helps draw people in too.
Yes.
So,
I think this is a cooperative venture that you get sometime in the Urbana atmosphere. Champaign is a more commercial town, and it's hard to find this sort of venue. Yeah. We need something like this in downtown Champaign.
Well, we certainly appreciate their ability to allow us to be in there. I don't know what we would do if we had to pay for a space, for example, to show this. It would just we operate on such a tight budget that we basically all the entry fees go back to the to the winners. We're not making a lot of money off of this, that's for sure.
You meet twice a week, and you meet in the agronomy building.
We
I
meet
think.
every other week, every 2 weeks. And currently we are meeting in the Siebel Center, which is just north of Uni High. We don't meet where we used to meet.
Tell
around
people where the Siebel
The
Center is.
Siebel Center is one block north of Springfield, just on Matthews, just north of University High School.
What's this? It's a water engineering.
It's a computer engineering.
Computer
Yeah,
engineering.
Yeah, Siebel, Tom Siebel, I think was.
Okay, so in the center of where Plato and Netscape and Mosaic had their initiation.
So we use one of the classrooms there, room 1103. We meet every other Monday, so we're not meeting tomorrow, but we'll meet next Monday.
Yes, it's very helpful to know that you have a permanent place. Some groups move sensibly around the state or around the community to give a different opportunity. The Forest Preserve, for instance, meets in Muhammad, but then it meets in Champaign sometimes. And
that makes it confusing.
Yes,
we try to keep some stability.
So the stability for something like a camera club is there.
So, and I would invite people to go to our website, champaigncamera.org.
Oh, so you have a brochure too?
We have the website, and then you can find on the website you can find out all the information about the club, when we're going to meet. Then we have a calendar
and
posted
the people that are have done some of the organization.
Yes.
We're missing Hiram Paley, who put some of this together.
Hiram was, an instigator. I think he was involved in starting the club some 50 or 60 years ago, and then he was certainly one of the motivators for getting the whole Best in Show competition started 8 years ago. And I think his ability as mayor or former mayor of Urbana was able to kind of pull some of these sponsors in to get them involved and get it started. And we've kind of gone along since then.
So do you ever go out as a group, if you get together with the Bloomington group and you go to some feature that you want to, and then you perhaps it was watching eagles on the Illinois River or something.
Yes, we have done a variety of trips, even as a club ourselves, or sometimes we'll do it in combination with another club. And we'll pick a place to go to, like Allerton Park, for example. It's a nice central location. Or we'll organize a spring trip or a fall trip. And there's so many places around here that you can go to, especially like in the fall. Go over to Forest Glen or Kickapoo. And we struggled this year because the leaves didn't really change very well. You're trying to get that fall color, and it was kind of too warm, and then it got damp.
The Natural Area Study Group is going shortly to see the skunk cabbage.
Oh, yes.
It sits on a little seep, and it's a rather unusual plant. And I can imagine that different people would photograph it in a different way.
That's always been kind of fascinating to me, is we'll take, there might be a dozen of us out there all at the same time, all taking pictures, and then we come back afterwards and everybody's got a little bit different view. We're all taking the same picture in the same place, and I didn't see that. How did you do it? How did you? So it's always entertaining to see how different people see the same thing.
Yes,
and that's the part of the thrill, I think, of photography.
So you get that so that you can do it on the same day, or you come back later, so people have to digest what they have.
Well, no, we usually come back later. It'll be at a meeting following that we would.
So are there amateur camera conferences? The radio people meet. They have a Midwest.
There are a lot of camera meetings, not necessarily part of our club, but there are all kinds of camera conferences. Chicago is the sponsor for a major conference every year. Now, Peoria Club, they're a much larger club than we, being a bigger city, I think really helps. They have over 100 members. every year they bring in a speaker for
speaker,
a 1 day seminar, and this person is always somebody that's pretty famous photographer from around the country or even around the world. They can afford to bring them in for the weekend, but there's a 1 day seminar, and it's usually a very reasonable price. Like for $75, you get the seminar and you get your lunch taken care of, and you get some inspiration.
Yes.
He has some great photos. I mean, that was the other thing too. For people that might feel intimidated about being part of the camera club, like I said, you don't have to pay dues. You can come to the meetings, and you will see some really nice photography during the meeting. And the whole idea is the more you see, you kind of learn what's going on and hopefully improve your own photography.
So if you have amateurs that don't necessarily belong to your club, that are going to Europe or Africa or China, have you any recommendations for them? What do they take? Do they take a inconspicuous little 16mm camera, or do they take a blunderbuss single lens reflex? Have you any thoughts?
I think it just depends on what you're trying to do. Now, last year I went to Ireland. We're going back again this summer, and I'll take a lot of equipment, but I'm driving in my own car. I'm not too concerned about. I mean, I can contain it all in one bag, but there are other people that don't want to lug 20 pounds of equipment around, and so you take whatever you feel comfortable taking, and you do what you can with what you have. We had Sue Post and Mike Jeffords in a couple weeks ago to talk about their African safari, but they're going specifically to take photographs.
Yes.
And so they're going to take equipment, and that's part of the deal. It just depends on what you want to do.
I was a tour guide in Australia, and I had one person with a lens that was about 3 feet long, and he took up the whole back seat of a van, and he was after one front page.
Yeah.
That he would probably get $1,000 for.
Yeah, and you can write off the trip too.
Yes. And the underwater photographers that often go to places like the Barrier Reef.
Sure.
And they're photographing it before we lose it, if
Yeah.
we're about to lose it.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably beyond what most of us in the camera club are part of. But we have some people that travel around, especially out west. And they'll take equipment and they bring back some just
Hiram and Jimmy would travel.
Sure.
He had a lot of travel.
Sure.
Pictures.
Sure. So, it just depends on what you're trying to get out of it and how much you want to put in.
It's interesting, the reverse of this. Whereas you used to have an enlarger which would take a small picture and make a big picture. Mm-hmm. These days, you have people who make a floor-sized picture of a circuit, and then they bring this down to a very small chip where the circuitry is one molecule different. It's the reverse of photography.
Sure. The technology is amazing. Even what you're holding in your phone, or the computational ability of something that you can hold in the palm of your hand is amazing.
Have 375 pages of information, and we probably use about 1.5% of its capacity.
So, and cameras have evolved that way too.
And we have policemen that have cameras now.
Sure.
They're sort of automatic, and so we get into political discussions as to who should take photographs of who and when, and where they should be displayed. So you're on the cusp of a lot of discussions. Do you get a lot of students?
Unfortunately, we have not, and we, given that we meet on campus, I'd like to see more student participation, because I think they have a lot to offer. In fact, some of them are probably, what would I say, higher up on the ladder in terms of the technology than a lot of us. Some of this stuff is easy to them that some of us struggle with, just especially the post-processing of photographs.
Yes, the computerization of it.
Yeah.
We take a Vegas program, and David is a specialist in this sort of thing, and we drop the pictures that you've given us. We'll drop some of those into that program. So then it goes up. We make a radio program into a television program, which shows for 2 times in locally. Then it goes up on YouTube.
Wonderful.
And so people can get it around the world.
Great.
4 minutes.
Okay.
So, yes, well, I want to thank you very much for coming in and discussing this. I'm going to take just a moment to say...
Before he's gone, though, I wanted to give you one more chance to tell people. So if they go over there now, through when will all of the pictures still be up?
They'll be up through next Sunday.
And did I read that just the winners will be up for a while after that, or that people can still? No. So once it gets this time next Sunday, that's it.
Yeah,
it'll all
that's
be over.
When the judging will be. The judges will be giving their
the talk
opinion
from 1 to 2. Is that right?
From why they make the decision.
Okay,
right.
And looking forward ahead, when people are getting ready for the next year, when do they find out from you? Or how can they find out when the deadline is?
Well, we'll probably make that decision very quickly.
Okay.
And maybe that's something we can put on our website. But you could anticipate it. It's going to be about the end of January next year.
Okay.
But what I might do is invite myself back.
Sure, come on before the deadline.
So we can talk about it and get it out there so people know about it.
And I know
before it's over.
Dave has something to talk about. Is it the pictures have to have been taken since the last festival?
Yes.
The last one.
Actually,
Okay.
so for next
They
year,
have to be recent.
the pictures should have been taken in 2017
Right.
next year, or 2018 next year.
Right, this year for next year's. Right. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, David, you should have him back. Speaking for myself. Dave, what did you have to say? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that it's February the 14th. It's Valentine's Day coming up fairly shortly. So think about that and think about that whole process, which gets commercialized a lot.
Still have 2 minutes.
And well, actually, I was snooping around to see how much nature there was that is actually prairie. We're down to 0.01% of remnant prairie left in a state that was 2/3 prairie. And so I was looking for people like Audrey Isher who were actually taking native vegetation and giving it some boost where there's little. Right now we have a pocket prairie across the road, and it's dead. It's in its winter array, and that is very bothering for people who are used to Park District plots of land that are eliminated at the end of the season, so they're barren. But this has the prairie falling the way the prairie falls. The snow sits on the top of a monada and does its own thing. And so I'm thinking to ask for some volunteers to help me clean out the prairie that faces the road and is more publicly misunderstood. Either that or we leave it and put a big sign on it. I think the alternative is that we do the thing that is acceptable in this community. We tidy it up, and I need some volunteers to help me do that. So give a call at 840-1911, and in the process of doing that, you'll learn a little bit about some of the plants that are there. We'll leave some plants that are up and shrub-like, but we need to tidy it up. There's a statement that goes around, which is, when is a prairie not a prairie? And the answer is when it's in downtown Champaign. So we have to be careful about what we do with our little pocket prairie. We're going to lose it to development. So this has been Dave Monk, your Prairie Monk, WEFT Champaign. Thank you very much, Al Warman, how do you announce your name?
Wehrman.
Wehrman. Okay. And thanks for coming in and
Absolutely.
we'll be following you up. It might even be possible to do a blog on this sort of thing.
Sure.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll see some people Sunday.
Yes.
Okay.
Get over there and look at it.
There we go. And Dave on the board. You're tuned to, as Dave said, you're tuned to WEFT Champaign 90.1.